Hello everyone and welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be talking about the Touché SE. The Touché SE is an expressive MIDI controller that has been released a few years ago by Expressive E. You might have heard of them because this year they finally released their amazing MPE instrument, the Osmos. But the Osmos is a bit big for this studio, it's quite expensive, and currently it's sold out in the known universe. So a few months ago, I was looking for an alternative expressive controller, and a friend of mine recommended that I try the Touché. And I was persuaded, and I got one. The Touché comes in two different versions. The original big boy Touché, which is quite a bit more expensive, but has individual MIDI outs and CV outs and can connect directly to hardware. And the special little brother, the Touché SE, which I got for the price of about 60 big Macs, which on this island is £190, which I think is a fair price for what it does. It's about the average price you would expect to pay for a boutique guitar pedal. The SE is marketed as being the software Touché, which is not really true. Granted, you do need a computer to connect it to, but if your computer can send MIDI to your outboard gear and your hardware synthesizers, then the Touché is just a MIDI controller. It's more than happy to play along. So, in this video, I'm gonna show you quite a few sound examples and share with you sound design ideas with software and hardware. I am going to talk a bit about the software that it comes with and why I'm not a really big fan of it. But I'm also gonna share with you a Max for Life patch that we've created that solves the problems that I initially had with the Touché and definitely levels up the Touché experience and allows it to reach its full potential. So, let me briefly introduce it to you. The Touché is a pretty hefty and chunky plastic controller. It detects pressure towards the bottom, the top, and left and right. You can adjust how sensitive it is to pressure with this big dial, and you can also open it up, mess with the big slider, and that adjusts how sensitive it is to left and right wobbliness. At its core, the Touché is a very basic MIDI controller. It sends 4 MIDI CC commands depending on where you push it: bottom, top, left, and right. It also sends pitch bend information when you move it left and right. Additionally, it has 2 big buttons at the bottom which also send MIDI, but Expressive E don't really want you to know about that. More on that later. What makes this different though than a conventional pitch and mod wheel or a joystick is how responsive it is. It feels very tactile and very intuitive to play. All of the buzzwords. I'm not really good with pitch and mod wheels, and this feels to me more like you're bending a string on a guitar, kind of that natural resistance you get. It's a piece of hardware that when you try it for the first time, you kind of feel that instant connection to it. It just feels that you know what you're doing. You are in control of the controller. Now, since it's a MIDI controller after all, the kind of sounds that you can get out of it depend on how creative you want to get with your sound design, what kind of parameters you're going to assign to it. There's a lot of demos out there that show you the presets, but I'm going to show you sounds that I made myself and the way that I like to use it. Keep in mind that a lot of these examples utilize the Max for Life patch that we've built. I'm going to talk about it more after the examples, and I'm also going to tell you how you can download and try out for yourselves. So, first test is the Vangelis test. I'm going to use the Minilog for this test. I've slightly tweaked the first preset, which is called Replicant, and it might or might not be a reference to an 80s sci-fi movie with Harrison Ford, who might or might not be an android. Very nice and very lush. Now, for the second example, I've assigned the resonance of the filter to the Touché, and I'm trying to go for a certain style of German minimal techno. Now I'm gonna use the Touché as a standard pitch and mod wheel combo. If you have any idea what to name this preset other than mosquito or diarrhea, let me know in the comments. Now, in this next one, I'm actually triggering Ableton's wavetable, but I'm playing it with the min log so that you can see that with my right hand, I'm always triggering the notes, but you can only hear the sound when I press on the Touché. Both the top and the bottom are assigned to the filter cutoff, but depending on how hard I press and where I press, I am changing the amount of the filter modulation and the time of the filter modulation. This is a very enjoyable way to play these kinds of sounds, and to me it feels easier and better than controlling the filter with velocity. It almost feels like you're playing a bass string. In the next example, I'm going to be controlling the send level to an effect, in this case a shimmer style reverb. It's very basic, but it feels very organic compared to using a fader or a knob. Now, let's check out some wavetable examples in Ableton. I think there's a lot of potential with wavetable synthesis because it gives you access to all of these parameters that very dramatically can alter the timbre of the sound. And finally, some FM examples with operator, which is one of my all-time favorite synths. I think that Touché can control the harmonics in a very, very natural way. So, how can you start creating sounds with the Touché? Well, after you've connected it to the computer, there's basically two ways you can go. The official way is through Lie. Lie is a plugin that can be hosted inside your DAW, and inside Lie, you can host VST instruments. VST instruments only. This gives you access to all of their automatable parameters, and they also have made lots of presets for popular VSTs, such as the Arturia Synth Collection, and also for their own UVI workstation. But I've got two problems with that. One is that I don't really like the workflow of having VSTs inside other VSTs in a VST inception. I'm looking at native instruments. The other thing is that I want to control things that are not necessarily VST instruments. I want to control effects. I want to control Ableton's own synthesizers. I want to control Ableton itself. And I want to control hardware. The solution to that is the max patch that Expressive E offers you. The max patch allows you to map the Touché to anything you want inside Ableton, and it also allows you to map the incoming CCs from the Touché to any CCs you might want, so that you control external synthesizers. It's pretty nice, but after a few weeks of playing around with it, I realized that certain things could be done differently and possibly better. So that's why, getting inspiration from Ableton's own expression control, we modded that to specifically work with the Touché SE in factory condition. So this is what we came up with, and it has three very, very fundamental changes to the original Touché patch. Number one, remember those buttons that don't work outside Lie? Well, now you can assign those buttons to whatever you want, and in my case, I've assigned them to pitch bend because sometimes when you're pressing really hard, you don't want pitch bend to be triggering, so you can toggle it on and off. Number two, in the original patch, when you assign the default CCs to a different MIDI CC, the patch outputs both the original CCs and the new CCs. So, if you have a synthesizer that responds to CC 16, 17, 18, or 19 in a weird way, like say, changing the pitch of the oscillators or turning down the sustain on the amp envelope, then it's pretty much unusable. So, in the new patch, all of the original CCs are blocked, and only the new assignments are forwarded outside Ableton. Number three, and this is the most fun, in the original patch, you could control the curve of the response and also assign minimums and maximums. Expression control gives you more advanced curve editing capabilities, but most importantly, it lets you alter the time response of the Touché. What this means is that if you assign Touché to, say, the filter cutoff and press it very fast, you'll get a sound like this. Now, if you wanted to close the filter more gradually, you would have to do this yourself. And this can be pretty challenging to do on the Touché because of how sensitive it is and how jittery it can get when you're trying to do very precise movements. In the new patch, you can adjust how much time it takes for it to respond to sudden movements, and it could sound like this. So basically, this is like having an attack release envelope on the pressure sensitivity of the Touché. This was the single most important tweak that unlocked the Touché for me. It helps you focus less on your precision when you don't need to, and makes the Touché feel even more natural to play, especially when you're going for like slow, evolving organic sounds, and also when you're trying to automate sends on a mix. You can create very natural automation. You just press on the Touché and the fader ramps up, and when you let go, it ramps down and creates a very natural fade out. So if you want to get your hands on the device, there should be a link in the description. Go and download it and try it out for yourselves. If you have any feedback and any ideas on how we can make it better or things we can add in the future, come and join our Discord server where we nerd out about music and gear, and drop me a message. I'm Vasilis, by the way. So I definitely recommend the Touché SE. I think it's a bit of an underappreciated controller. It's much more powerful and definitely less gimmicky than some of the official demos might suggest, especially when you venture out its small ecosystem. If you like this review, you'll probably also enjoy the review that we did for the enhanced noise reduction app, which is super powerful but also very weird at the same time. So go check it out. You can now press all of the appropriate YouTube buttons, and we'll see you soon on the next episode. Bye bye.